Perimenopause, menopause, the midlife transition. Somehow still one of the most misunderstood and under-researched and over-opinionated spaces in women's health. My guest today is on a mission to change that. Marie McQueen is a veteran health journalist, award-winning reporter, and the founder of Hotflash Inc. She has built a platform that cuts through the noise to deliver the evidence, I love that, and the lived experience. So, Marie, welcome to the pod.
It's so great to be here. I'm so glad I met you and I'm here. This is so exciting.
Yeah, so let's dive straight in. You are of wise woman age. I am curious, what are some of the good things? I want to start with the good. What are some of the good things that this menopausey midlife time has brought to your life?
There are so many things. And first of all, I want to say I've spent probably the last 15 years unraveling my history and what created me as a person who outwardly would have seemed happy and fun, but was really quite tortured inwardly, if that makes sense. So the very best thing is that I don't feel tortured anymore inside. I don't have rumination. I don't have really bad sort of emotional habits. I don't feel a sense of doom. I don't work out because I have a big cloud of anxiety, and I'm making myself sound sort of crazy, but I had the normal amount of childhood stuff. I went into a career that was so incredibly stressful. I'm actually watching The Newsreader on Netflix right now. And the lead in that series is a woman who's really emotionally sort of stressed out all the time. And that show, it's like I'm torturing myself watching it because I thought, no wonder I struggled so much. News is like, first of all, it's terrible. And I don't know why I worked in it, but you're constantly going to the worst things. Everything has to be done right away. All the people around you are not supportive. And, So I have been reckoning with all of that. And in the last 2 years, I went through menopause when I was 53. I'm 55 now. It doesn't happen right away. The year that you're going through it feels like you're in the Wizard of Oz, in the house, and you're upside down. But I feel so much more like me and so much more at peace in my own body and mind than I ever have. And I'm so excited about life. Like I feel like I was when I was 30 and I was so into my career and I would go home at lunch and phone editors and try to get bigger jobs. And I was doing I feel so jazzed about what I'm doing. And I feel really physically well too. That's another thing. Recent events in the UAE aside, sleeping great, calm, focused, all the things that I, sort of always wanted to be and thought other people were. So I hope that's enough, but just incredible insight and a calmness and I will say a calmness around people who disagree, who I vehemently disagree with, around people whose energy is not good, around people who are sort of, would try to take you down with little comments. Like it doesn't affect me the way that it used to. I can sort of be like, this person is insecure. This person is insecure, and that's the reason for that comment. And so I don't know if that's a big enough list. There's so many things.
No, I get it. Same. I am more bloody excited post 50 than I ever was. I found my 30s frustrating.
Me too.
It's way more fun now. Like bloody way more fun. Yeah, super cool.
Way more fun. I also used to binge drink. I'm just going to be open about that. It's a journalist.
I did the same. I got it.
Okay. So from 16, I remember saying I had a boyfriend. He broke up with me. And I remember saying to a friend, I can't wait to drink this Friday. And so that was a very early indication of me just going back down a tunnel, not having to think, taking a vacation from myself, I used to say. And that was, you go into journalism, that's condoned, that's encouraged. And so I don't need to do that anymore. I had quite a health explosion a couple of years ago and I had to stop drinking for a year and it changed everything. And even years before that, I had been thinking, this is not normal. I'm not going to go to that party and hit it hard. It's been a long process. It wasn't like an Alcoholics Anonymous situation, but just being comfortable in my own skin and enjoying things for what they are, that's another huge, and I can't separate that from menopause, that shift and that change.
Love it. Well, I did the AA, and then I realized after about a year I was addicted to going to AA. Sorry, I was in my 20s
Well,
when I got
that's
sober.
really interesting. True
Yeah,
story. So that you were able to keep it going after you were able to.
yeah. Decades of sober. But I realized I could put my addiction to being sober. I just moved my mindset to being addicted to being I don't drink.
Ah,
So
yes.
yeah, I just changed that addiction, changed my mind around it. So yeah, interesting journeys. But I meet so many women now who alcohol moves away from them in this time. It's like we don't need to mask stuff like we did when we were younger. I find it really common in women in their
It's
50s
really
and
common.
60s. I love
It's
it. I love it because it fucking kills our brain cells and does all that shit. But
it's poisonous. Like,
yeah,
when I think about how much of my life I spent truncated, just hungover, working, like what I could have done, it makes me sort of sad. The other thing I was very addicted to, I never got married, and I wanted to get married, and I, watched all my friends get married. But I've really changed the way I approach relationships and dating. I was quite addicted to having someone around, telling other people about that person. Trying to keep that thing going, being sort of the object of attack, all that stuff has shifted to like, I just want to have, I still don't have a partnership, right? But I want a partnership. I want a spiritual, I've broken down sort of all of the things in my life. I've untangled them. I've just started dating again. That is a huge shift too. And you can't really separate this stuff. It's like a midlife sort of hero's journey, right? Like untangling. So much needs to be untangled. But it is only with the loss of estrogen that I am able to not chase the attention and the desire of men. Like, and I've made a new decision. Like when I date, I'm not going to be having any sleepovers for quite a long time. And that's something that I wanted to do when I was younger, but I couldn't because of the estrogen. Like I would say, hey, I'm gonna take this slow, but then our hormones are very powerful, right? So this is another really cool thing that I think I can finally date the way I want to value myself, to wait to get to know someone really well, and to be in the right place, not putting the cart before the horse. So that's a lot of TMI I just gave you.
no,
I
that's
think this
right.
stuff is all so fascinating.
Well, it is. I'll add one to it because this is something for women to think about. Alice and I found my wife Alice. I was on my best six. I was 60 when we met. She was 58. Two incredibly independent women. Both had been single for a long time. Okay, and both dated and stuff. But yeah, and just you come to this part of life with different priorities, and our brain still thought, oh, you've got to do it all the same way. And after about a month of sharing the same bed, we chose to live together. However, because my mind always thought, fuck it, I'm just going to have separate houses nowadays. But we chose to live together, but we realized we both operate better in life with separate bedrooms.
Yep.
So we start the night together and we end the night together. One crawls into each other's bed or whatever. And it's beautiful and it's treasured, and pillow talk, everything is wildly different. But we sleep differently. And as an older woman, I'm like, good, this is great. We both get to sleep in peace differently. But younger in hormones, it's like we should have the same bed, even though one might keep the other awake and all those kind of things. It's so much more liberating at this age to be in a relationship and
Make
set
your own
the rules, or not even the rules, but the way it operates differently. I fucking love it.
I love it, and I
But
love that you're saying it out loud.
I wouldn't have had that mindset.
No.
I've never told anyone. There you go. Everyone know, that Alice and I have got separate bedrooms.
Well, anyone who's going
We
to
have a
join,
very
judge that.
sex life, and we also have separate bedrooms.
Yeah. I think I would have to have that as well. I think it's barbaric that people sleep in the same bed every night and someone snores. It's insane to me, my friends. It's as insane as when my friends have made dinner every night for the last 30 years. I just cannot even fathom how one person is responsible for making all the food. I have a friend who a couple of years ago, maybe 8 or 9 years ago, she's my age. She just said, I'm not making dinner anymore. You guys complain about it. And then lo and behold, her kids learned to cook. Her husband cooks. It's like amazing. Yep, they step up. But this is like a hormonal shift too. I'm sure of it. But the sleeping thing is, I mean, a lot of people just don't have the room, right? The ability for this. Like they don't have the extra bedroom. But yeah, for sure. And like there's a lot of things you can do that people complain about in their relationships that I think, well, why do you do that? Like, why do there's a lot of stuff that I hear. I want to write a book. I want to write a memoir called Everything I Learned About Marriage by Staying Single. That's my dream.
I love it.
But there's a lot of times I listen to people and the things that they're complaining about. And it's just like, that's pretty easily fixable if you guys would these are just addressable things, right? Or some of it's emotional stuff, like just deciding that you don't like to have sex certain ways. That's a thing that people don't do, right? They don't really like how they're having
sex. They don't talk about it when they're younger. There's so much obligation and expectation on them. Where as an older woman, you go, no.
Oh, there's a whole lot of horrible stuff out there too, right? Like there's a lot of men who've watched porn, and then there's a lot of women who know that the men want certain things. Like I'm not doing any of that stuff anymore. And I think, there's all it takes is I don't want, like I just dated someone, the first person I dated who seemed like he was very interested in me, but in short order, in a couple of dates, started, trying to steer the texting conversation in a spicy direction. And I didn't, but next time I'll be like, I'm not going to be able to keep chatting if you keep doing this, right? Like, I'm not going to humor you. Cause I started to kind of my old habit of like humoring and worrying. I didn't want to hurt his feelings. No.
But so, we ourselves out, don't we?
Women don't like that. Women don't like that. And I just had a friend who said, she said to her husband, he's always trying to be naughty. And she said, I don't want you to do anything. I don't want you to ask me. And I feel like I have to come up with some naughty thing that I like. I want you to care for me. I want you to, and these are just really important things that are so hard for us to say, because if you've been raised to be a good girl, and a lot of us we're just always putting the other person's feelings before ours.
Yeah, we are.
Yep.
We're raised to look after everyone else before we look after ourselves.
It's so insidious. It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I learned from my niece. It's like she sparked something in me when she was maybe 3 or 4. I made pasta with pesto, and she was like it is too spicy. I just was like staring at her. I'm like, look at her just saying she doesn't like it.
She hadn't even tried it.
She ate it. She didn't like it. But like as a 40-something woman, I was staring at her going like,
she thought, yeah,
she doesn't like it. She's thinking about anyone else. I would have eaten the whole thing and said, no, it's delicious, because I wouldn't want to. I like, she was the little catalyst. You can just say you don't like it kindly. You can just say
estrogen keeps us down.
Oh,
it's so good having that shit out of our bodies. I think.
Yeah. For the women who do go on hormone therapy, they do still have this sort of thing. Like it's not like it, because someone will say to me, if I go on hormone therapy, will I not have this awakening? And it's like, no, I think I see it in my friends too, who are,
They won't have it the same as having the amount of estrogen when they're younger.
No, it's very small.
You still don't care, and you also still care deeply. All the fun things of menopause is just the best, or post-menopause.
You don't care. You don't care.
You care so much deeper, and at the same time, I don't give a fuck about.
Yeah, well, the depth goes here.
Yeah.
There's no time for this. Yeah.
Oh, because it's estrogen that makes us care about what other people think about us. It's so interesting, because we were built with so much estrogen to find a mate, to procreate. Yes. So you've got to keep them happy, or that's not going to happen. So when that disappears, it's like, I can actually think about myself. No.
Yeah. I have another friend who was dating, and the guy was, he was just steering everything in a sexual direction. And she said, I think you need to find someone younger.
Who'll play your games.
Yeah. Like she knew like exactly what he needs is someone younger who will bend and contort and play his game.
Yeah. All right. So we've gone on the most fun tangent. We've both shared stuff that people didn't know, and that's fun too. So let's come back on track.
Okay.
You have built a platform. You've built a platform on finding the kind of the true truth in a space that's, we were talking about off camera, deeply polarized, especially around HRT. And you were sharing about how when I was on your podcast, I said that the hippie naturopath kind of ways of stay away, and you copped, all the flack for that. So I'm curious, what's one thing you want people to know from all your research and stuff about hormone therapy? And what's the one narrative that you think is doing the most damage to women's decisions right now?
Okay. Well, I think the narrative that's doing the most damage is that you need hormone therapy to go through menopause and be a healthy, happy postmenopausal woman. I think that is a narrative and a story. It doesn't make any sense. It's based on this estrogen deficiency belief system that doesn't stand up to any scrutiny or any querying on, any scientific level. But it makes sense, right? It ignores a whole swath of the conversation and focuses on estrogen. And it doesn't make any sense because, we evolved to do this. I won't get into all of it. It's just, it doesn't make any sense that half of us were, however we came to be here, whatever you believe, that half of us are able to just sort of gently, slowly age, and the other half just drop off a cliff when they go through menopause. That doesn't make any sense. But it is a powerful narrative, and it seems to make sense. So that's why I think it's dangerous. And that's where you get people saying, I can't go on HRT. I just saw this yesterday. I can't go on hormone therapy. How will I protect myself from heart disease and dementia? And it's like, well, there's only about dozens of ways that you can do that, right? It's just absolutely
dozens. It's too.
Yeah. So, I think, did you ask what I've learned? Like what I've learned?
Yeah. Well, kind of like,
see the narrative, and then I lost my train of thought.
How that's shown for you? What's the biggest thing that you think people, want to know, but then the narrative is fucking it up?
Okay, so that's the narrative, and that's what I want people to know is that it is a narrative and it is a story. But at the same time, hormone therapy can be very helpful, and I've watched friends who go on it, who really have things improved. I've also watched and seen people on social media who have entire accounts about how great hormone therapy is, but then spend a lot of time talking about all the side effects they're having and all the shifts they're doing in their dosing. And so I don't think people understand what a journey it can be. One of the doctors on my expert panel, Dr. Vikram Talalekar, who is an OBGYN in Britain, and I'm really careful about who I ask on my expert panel because I don't want anyone who's broadcasting this story that you need hormone therapy. But he said you really have to give it 4 months. And that's a lot of time if you are not doing well on it. And you can't just get a doctor's appointment lickety split almost anywhere in the world, except pretty much where I am. And so, if you react badly to hormone therapy, as I have to when I tried progesterone, your life can be turned upside down. Like I descended into depression. I became bloated. I had terrible headaches. I don't know who really has time for that kind of thing. So I want people to understand that it's not like a one and done magic bullet. And the most responsible people sharing information won't make it seem like that. And I don't understand why people who make it seem like that, I don't understand how they can do that in good conscience, because I think that, either their patients aren't being honest with them about how they feel, or they're not coming back when it doesn't go well. Like, I just don't really get it. I went to see a doctor here, a longevity doctor, and I went to get vaginal estrogen because everyone tells me I need vaginal estrogen. I don't really need it, but I do always I do feel on the cusp of a UTI. And so I thought, well, maybe I'll get this and try it. He was giving me the hard sell for the hormones and the peptides and everything. And then he said about 60% of women do really well on it and 40% have some problems. Well, that's almost half. And we're not hearing, and the almost half sort of they don't have a space or a voice. So that's what I bring together at my platform, is just real talk about all this. And then there's just so many gaps in information that it's ludicrous. And you have people confidently talking who don't understand the difference. And you would know this as a naturopath, the extreme difference between progesterone and synthetic progestin, and the way that that's not even differentiated in scientific research. They're doing entire scientific studies and not telling us, or not separating out if it was a synthetic or a bioidentical hormone. And so that's just the tip of the iceberg in things that don't make sense.
Yeah, I agree. And it's tough as a naturopath. It's tough. I bite my tongue because if someone's, sadly, doctors are still believed over naturopaths.
Yeah.
And so, I go, okay, your choice. And I just want I want women to do their due diligence, do their research, and check, where all their information's coming from. Because it's an interesting story.
I think this is the most important decision you can make in your life, what you decide to do at midlife. And I think it's worth taking time to just learn the basics and figure it out. I'm actually creating a guide about hormone therapy for this reason. It's called The Hot Truth About Hormone Therapy. It's just some videos and some slides. It's going to be out in a couple of weeks. And it's my view of the whole thing, my helicopter view. So I think it's worth it to figure out, because I have friends who don't know that they're not on synthetic hormones. I have friends who, continue to drink a lot when they're on hormones. So I think you're sort of like doubling your risk in that way, especially if you're on synthetic hormones, you're doubling your risk for some things. It's worth it to figure out so that later on you had your eyes wide open and you had informed consent. And I think also to understand how naturopathic doctors are vilified. There can be not good naturopaths as well. Like there can be, the thing about the million supplements and the expensive testing, that can all be real and true as well. But we've all been to doctors who are rushing and don't keep up with research. And so I don't really know how the average woman is supposed to figure this out with all the messaging that's coming. So I always say, if you're going on social media, just follow 5 people who don't agree with each other so that you can start to spot the gaps. I think yeah.
That's great advice. I love that. That's really cool.
And understand that I think sorry to interrupt.
No.
I think in the US, the most recent study was that like 5% of people are on hormone therapy now. And even the way they measure that, it has to be estrogen containing hormone therapy, which also makes me crazy, because there's women on testosterone, there's women on progesterone. Like seriously, there's women taking DHEA. These are all hormones. But, it used to be much higher before the Women's Health Initiative, and everyone wants it to be higher. You get more women on hormones. It's good for business. But understand there are many, many women who are being successfully helped with their, whatever they're going through in menopause by naturopaths, who don't prescribe hormones, by traditional Chinese medicine, by Ayurveda, by traditional Arabic and Islamic medicine, homeopathy. I might have gone on hormones, although I don't tolerate them well, if I hadn't had my health explode and had someone lead me to a GP / homeopathic doctor, a double certified doctor from Norway who helped me. And then by the end, there was no need for me to go on hormones. I don't judge anyone who does, but just to understand there's a whole wide world out there of things that can help you if you're struggling. You have options. The other message is you don't have options, and you do. You do have options.
Yeah, agree. When my fanny fell out 2 years ago, I had a prolapse, and the doctors, I know the most not likely to prolapse. However, I understand the way I was training at the gym and things all contributed to it. However, the doctor's solution was, apart from having an operation, which I went, nah, the doctor's solution was use vaginal estrogen to puff up your lips to hold it in. I went, well, that doesn't fix the prolapse. No, but it'll help it hold in. However, acupuncture through a women's health physio, it went from a +5, like hanging out, to like everyone now needed to know that. Well, I'm open about it, but to to a -3 where, it's in unless I'm surfing is the only time I need to wear a pessary when I surf in that because it's really vulnerable,
Okay. Yeah.
straddling a surfboard. But, fanny acupuncture instead of the doctor didn't have a solution. And it's like, but women,
No.
trustingly just go, oh, good idea. So,
Not only did they not have a solution, they had a ridiculous, like,
oh,
defies belief suggestion that isn't
yeah.
even an anatomically possible. So, do you say you're least likely to have it because did you have children?
No, I've never birthed.
Right. So we always think we're,
I did too. When it fell out, I had a big chest cold. We're just going so off track here. And what time to chat? We're just going to go, hang in there. I'm going to get back to this. But this is a real thing because it's so prevalent in women our age. So I never birthed a child. I had been a heavy lifting weights woman for, to be strong, fit and healthy. However, I was lazy. I wouldn't hold my pelvic floor in. I wouldn't, hold my abs in.
You were just like,
lift shit. Functionally kind of strong, to my detriment. And one day was sitting on the toilet, had a chest cold, coughed, boop, down she came. I went, oh, fuck, that doesn't feel right. There's something hanging out. And I had a rear wall prolapse and, had to get in to see the specialist. And they just went, yeah, just literally puff because you've got natural atrophy, which happens as we get less estrogen, your outer lips atrophy. And so it was like, just puff them up and that'll help hold it in. I went, that doesn't fix the problem. Why would I do that? But I'm grateful. I found a great fanny physio who, does acupuncture on the pelvic floor, like through the perineum kind of area. Incredible. Just tells it all to strengthen back up. So,
I mean, that's worth getting that's just worth getting, like that's worth doing that even as a preventative, I would think.
Yeah, totally. Because so many women's UTIs and all those things are because the pelvic floor doesn't work properly.
Yeah.
Something I never knew through doing Pilates with the same, the fanny physios is that our inner thighs for women. So I'm strengthening the fuck out of my quads, your big muscles and that. But our inner thighs are what help keep your fanny up.
Okay. So inner thigh work.
Yoga.
Yeah, this is,
yeah.
And see, what did I do, Jen? I went to the doctor to get vaginal estrogen because everyone's saying you need vaginal estrogen because I do have this feeling of the UTI, like the cusp too often, a couple times a month. But you're absolutely right. I know that I have I used to do trampoline classes and I remember one day about 48, 49, I was like, feels like something's moving in addition to me. It feels like a sort of a lack of, So
a lack of tone.
I did. So here's the thing that we're on another tangent, but when you go to a pelvic floor physio, you have to stand in your own power. You have to say, is this for me or not? Kim Vopney, who's an amazing pelvic floor, she's the vagina coach. And she said to me, like, one session with a pelvic physio is really helpful. So I took her advice. I went, but it turned into like me feeling bad. Like the woman, it just turned into me feeling like I had a mess and I had to keep going back. And nothing I ever did was right with this woman. And I finally said, I just don't think this is
you're not my person. Yeah.
This is not my person. Yeah. I don't feel like we're moving. I just don't, and so it's important to pay attention to that. Now, have I gone back and addressed it? No, because it takes energy to find these people and then you have to find another person. But it is, again,
to a friend, ask a girlfriend. My secret is ask a girlfriend who's been to, I call them fanny physios because in Australia we call those bits fannies. I know Americans think that's your butt, but fanny physios. So my fanny physios, I got, the doctor said, go here, who I worked out was just doing the same doctor story and saying, do your Kegels, but my pelvic floor was too tight. So the more I'm smashing out Kegels because I'm an overachiever, I was making it worse.
Yep.
And this is very common. So a girlfriend who'd had a great result with a fanny physio, I went and saw that one and it was another game.
Yeah. And that's smart to take that time.
Yeah.
Ask your girlfriends. Yep. And trust yourself if you don't if you trust yourself, because I think some people have a method of operating across practitioners that is to make you feel like you're not, okay. And then, it can be just as effective in a practitioner to be like the change in attitude. It doesn't matter. It's just, I don't like that kind of a attitude. I want someone who's like, okay, you're fine. We're just going to do a little work. I don't know.
Yeah. I am so with you. All right, let's play. You talk about a lot, and we'll just go back on track for a change. It's been fun to go off track with you, by the way. I talk a lot about the gifts of life at this stage. And I know you see them too, and we've kind of opened with that. But be honest, although you always are, but what has to shift in a woman first before she can actually receive and see those gifts, rather than buy into that narrative that society is teaching them, or has got them to a place to expect that it's meant to be the horrors? What do you think has to move in the woman?
I think that you have to learn how to value yourself, and believe in yourself, because if you don't, then you're very susceptible to all of that messaging that has been coming at you since you can remember. So you've been primed to, it was like you weren't thin enough. I remember thinking the conversation just switched from you weren't thin enough to the conversations with my girlfriends shifted from like, oh, I'm diet talk to old talk. Like overnight, it felt like. And we didn't decide to do that. That was just fed into us. So I think valuing yourself and understanding, no, I'm going to back up. Okay. What you really need is to open your eyes to the fact that we have a soul and we are all connected and we are all part of something divine. And all the people talking about manifestation and all the people talking about all the different things are really just talking about that we are so much more than our physical bodies. And the whole world is geared, in my understanding now at 55, to getting you to forget that. Because when you understand that you're a soul and you came from somewhere, probably go back there, whatever it is, then it all seems a bit silly. All of the other stuff becomes a bit transparent. But to get to this place, you have to value yourself enough, and you have to clear up whatever you brought with you to midlife. Sometimes you need a really big kick in the ass. Sometimes you need a bunch of them, I think, to just get sort of broken down and to just say, like, I remember a very clear moment in my kitchen. I had a couple of really hard knocks when I was 48. And I always say, like, I almost didn't make it out of this phase. I'm not being like hyperbolic. I'm not exaggerating. It was dark and I had terribly dark thoughts. And I remember I was making a cup of tea and I was so miserable. And I was thinking, no one's helping me. Like, no one is helping me. And it was like, I don't know whether I heard a voice or I just got a feeling. It was like, yeah, no one's helping you. Like, no one's helping you. This is your job. And I think that was the moment that I always had flashes of my soul, and the world has sort of been pushing me. I've had these incredible moments. I've had a lot of times when I should have probably died and I haven't. Like, I've had a lot of whispers from the universe, but I think that moment when it was like, yeah, no one's coming to help. This is your job. And then from there, it's been a clearer path to realizing that there's something much bigger. So that's a bit all over the place, but does that make sense?
It's perfect, because I was about to ask, because in me, around the same age, I realized no one was going to rescue me.
Yeah.
And I was going to ask you, what do you think, at this age, what we get to do is accept 100% responsibility for ourselves. And it's still, there's that lag of estrogen thing that wants some the white knight's going to save you kind of thing.
I just say like this.
Yeah.
Like
built into us. But in this age, hormonally, as that shift happens, it is. I felt it too. It was like, it's up to me and I can do this. And so
and it doesn't happen right away
with your girlfriends. Yeah. No, but it happens. It
takes time. That's when that penny drops, and that is an essential penny to drop. It's then a process of figuring out where. And originally it was, how am I relating to other people in romantic relationships? I'm just performing and trying to keep them continuing. I'm not in these. I realized that. I took a bunch of courses. I started taking courses in everything. Then that bled into friendships. Who are these friends? Like, I don't have some of the same friends anymore. Once I started to realize that I had people in my life that were not helpful, like, those things kind of fall away. A big one was my finances. A prevailing thought for me was, why do I have to figure this out? Why isn't there someone to figure this out? I slowly started to realize my friends who, they said, your husband doesn't automatically figure it out. And I remember I asked my dad, who, my mom died years and years and years before he did. And I said, does it ever bother you that you have to do your finances? And he said, I never thought about it. I was like this about my finances. So that's been a piece that I've been working on recently, of accepting full responsibility for that, not passing it off because I don't trust myself, so it's a huge unraveling and then relearning. But it all comes down with, it's a lot of us walk around thinking other people should be responsible. And that's why narratives like hormone therapy is what you need for, or any other natural program, whatever, that's why those are so seductive, because you do feel very untethered and lost for a period of time. Even if you didn't have the scintilla of a menopause symptom, a perimenopause symptom, I still think at midlife, you're going to have an unsteady emotional time. And I talked to probably one of the most emotionally healthy women who's coming up on my podcast. She's actually created a program called Emotional Fitness. And so to me, she's someone who's like really figured it out before. She still had a year of sort of not really feeling in touch and not really knowing who she was. Like a year, she still had that year. So it's coming for you somehow, and you're gonna make it.
And that's the thing, like, be excited about it, because you will get through it. How do we know you will get through it? Because fucking millions of us have. And so borrow our belief in the meantime, and surround yourself with women and messaging that lifts you up and supports you, like your podcast and the things that we do, because then that's part of, I think we're meant to have our sisterhood at this age. Like,
we are, borrow our belief.
Women. Oh, so
you just borrow our belief is so beautiful. I'm in the middle of the UAE and there's a military conflict going on. There's loud bangs in the sky and it's been very stressful. And I have thought to myself, so many women have gone through this so much worse. And I want to be strong for them, but I want to borrow their sense of fortitude. And that's how I'm going to go through this. And that is borrow our belief. It's so beautiful. Yeah. And get the good people around you and you'll start to figure out who they are.
Plug the good shit in your brains. Look, check it. I'll put all the links. Doesn't matter if you're on YouTube or whatever podcast platform. I'll put all the links to Anne-Marie's stuff below. Check it out. Follow her. I promise your brain will get full of good shit. So speaking of that, you've reached 60,000 people across on your global platform. What's the one question that women keep asking that tells you we still have a long way to go? And what's the one thing that gives you hope that we're going to get there?
That's a good question. I'd say the question that I hear is, how do I, if I don't take hormone therapy, how will I protect myself against disease? The belief that hormone therapy will protect you against disease is the most disturbing thing that I get, I guess, because that helps me understand that the propaganda and the narrative is really effective. And to suggest that something that was only invented, it doesn't even, it doesn't make any sense. So that's the thing. And further to that, the women who can't take hormone therapy or have been told they can't take hormone therapy because of they've had cancer or whatever, they get very, very upset because they can't take hormone therapy. And that's even harder for me to see and hear because, we talked a bit earlier about breaking through if you believe your shirt is pink, then it's pink. But if you believe it's blue, it's blue. And so when people believe this, it's really hard to reckon with them. And people get very, very agitated and angry when I get told off by doctors when doctors who are confidently saying hormone therapy will help will prevent dementia. Hormone therapy will prevent cardiovascular disease. These things make me very angry, but they in turn get angry with me when I say, no, it won't. It won't prevent it. It's not how it works. And it's not, the research doesn't show that. And you're cherry picking. And so, Yeah, all of that makes me uncomfortable
So
about
what
where we
gives you
are.
hope? What gives you hope?
The people that are attracted to my platform, I have a very little sort of argumentation, black and white thinking. The people who come are smart. Like they're smart. It's a smaller growth, like it's a slower roll for sure, because you're sort of looking at someone who can see all sides. But that does give me hope, and it gives me a lot of hope that this. And the practitioners who come, they also really give me hope. The people, because it's really hard for people who are working in this space who also don't believe this narrative, right? Like it's very disconcerting for them and dissonant for them. And when I started out, I would always stop and think, oh my gosh, like I should be recommending hormone therapy. I should be doing more. So the practitioners as well make me feel good about it. And especially the ones who prescribe hormone therapy and believe in it, but don't believe in the narrative. That's the most hopeful thing for me.
Okay. Yeah, cool. So you've covered health journalism across multiple countries and cultures. Does menopause look different depending on where you are in the world? And what do you think that tells us?
Well, that's controversial and it's hard for me to say, right? Like I think about this a lot because we hear that it's not as difficult for women in Japan, for example, and maybe that's because they eat more soy, or maybe that's because they don't eat as much processed food. We hear that it's not as difficult for women in Africa, and perhaps that's because their diet is more close to the land. But then, I interviewed a woman in Uganda, and she started a menopause group because they are struggling. And I talked to a woman at a retreat, and her mom is going through menopause, and she's in Japan, and she said she's suffering. So every time I hear one of those stories, I don't really, I think, is it true? And I think that pretty much about everything now. When I like something I heard that I believe, when I get around to it, I'm like, I'm going to look on the other side of that. Like before we started talking, you said that in China, they get you to stand up when you have the acupuncture needles and walk around. You just blew my mind. I had no idea. You had no idea.
On the table being nice.
Come on.
No, over there, you move.
Nope. Walking around. So what do we know, right? Like I can't really even answer that question. I'm sure if you did a global study properly, you might see a lot of a worse situation in the countries that are more westernized and more focused on processed food, that have people are terrified of the sun, so they're not ever getting their circadian rhythms are messed up. They're inside, they're on their phones. I mean, I don't know. I suspect that you would see a higher prevalence of issues, particularly sleep issues, but I can't really answer.
Yeah, I was curious because I've been traveling into Asia teaching for nearly 30 years, and I've watched such a change the last 30 years. They were closer, more traditional in their ways of being, eating,
Yeah.
lifestyle, everything. Not unheard of, but it was fine. It was not the concern is now. But the more they've adopted Western ways of being and away from their traditional ways of eating and being, it's becoming really prevalent. And
okay, you've nailed it. You've nailed it. And we do know that, yeah, you've nailed exactly what it is. So yes, a woman in Japan that I heard about, yes, in Uganda, but we don't know what they're doing and how their lives have changed. We do know that well documented, the Hazda women of Tanzania really have any menopause symptoms at all. A little bit of genitory syndrome of, I call it the vulva UTI stuff. They had a little bit of that. They didn't really have a word for it. They're, they gather more food, they eat less, like there's a Mayan women, there's a study on Mayan women, very active. They have bone loss, but they don't have any fractures. So even something as simple as bone loss is bad. When you look at a study like that, you're like, well, is it inherently bad, or do we lose bone as we get older? But if we're active and we move, are we protected from fractures? Right? Like these are very easy stories to tell.
I know there's some variables.
Yeah. So I suspect that the westernized way of living, which we know is just not often involves very sort of unhelpful. Yeah, very unhelpful. The circadian rhythm one is amazing to me. That is. And when you tell women, like I actually saw some women making a video about how, I think it was going around that you should get morning light You're a huge proponent of
I'm a,
that. Look
I'm
how
a big
healthy
one.
you are.
I'm with Sunrise.
I'm a huge one. My sleep, the situation here, a lot of it's been happening in the morning, so I haven't been having my morning walk, and it's affecting my sleep. But it was going around about the morning light, and these two chicks in the States made this video about how, like, what do they think we have time, like the kids running around and the whatever, right? It's like, okay, fine, I get it, but 10 minutes of morning light, like, surely you can accommodate this. And why are you making fun of it and making it seem like this is some weird wellness trend? Like, this is just something you can do. And something else that I find is, you know, some sort of nervous system regulation thing before you go to bed, even stretching, even yin yoga will go such a long way to helping with your sleep that it's out of control how helpful it is. And people will look at me like I have two heads when I suggest that.
Yeah.
I had a friend, she was talking about upping her dose of hormone therapy, and she was an alcoholic, she became a workaholic. And I said, you just stretch before you go to bed. She's not sleeping. She said, oh, I read. It's like, it's not the same thing. And I feel like this situation in the UAE with the military conflict and the sounds in the sky that I'm hearing that are scary have created a sort of, I feel like it's perimenopause a bit, like my digestion's off, my sleep isn't great. I'm having my brain feels like it's moving slowly because it's preoccupied. And I started doing yin yoga again, and I'm sleeping. Like, I had a great sleep last night because I said, I got to do this yin yoga because it's not working without it. So that just shows you that it's a very important component. And it's the one thing that I think people,
Basics.
yeah. If you only did two things,
Oh,
I would say get 10 minutes of light in the morning if you can, and stretch at night, and just go from there, and just see how it goes. Don't look at me like I have two heads, like you can't accomplish this. And I know I don't have kids, and I know.
and we can still make our health a priority. Something simple like that. I agree.
Yeah, that's the basics. Yeah.
Yeah. So you talk about serving women's whole selves, which we've kind of been talking about, the mind, body, soul, community. Which one do you think, or which one for women in midlife do you think they most consistently neglect?
Soul.
So, oh, yeah, totally. Yeah.
It's, you know, I'm a kind of a weird person in my friend group. Like, I think people humor me a lot of the time with how I feel about this, but I think we're conditioned not to ask questions, bigger questions about why we're here and what this is all about, and um, why everything seems to be so devoted to black and white and picking sides. And I remember even when I was in my 20s, it's like, are you a cat person or are you a dog person? It's just so ludicrous. Like, we in so many areas of our lives, and to realize that you have a spark inside of you, like a light, to realize that you came into this world out of nothing and you don't remember where you came. And if you've seen someone ever die, which sounds morbid, but it's not, then you sort of start to understand that this is so much bigger, and move in that direction. Like, definitely that's the underserved part, I think.
I'm with you on that. So if you could put one bit of evidence, just one study, one finding, one data point on a billboard for every midlife woman to see, what would it say, Anne-Marie?
It would be about the Hasta women in Tanzania. The Hasta women in Tanzania don't even have a word for menopause.
I love that.
Yeah. What does that tell you?
Fucking heaps. That's so good. Full stop.
Yeah. Then you could have a subhead. You could have a subhead that says they gather more food and eat and
live
care for
closer
the
to
rest of the
nature.
tribe and overfunction. Yeah. I love the grandmother hypothesis. I think it's great. I think it makes so much sense, the fact that our energy is taken off child rearing or overfunctioning or whatever it is we did, and we can just, we can also, it doesn't mean we can't become our fantastic selves we were always meant to be, but we do have gifts to bring back to the tribe. That's the hero's journey. Joseph Campbell's like hero's journey is like, we go through this quest and we come back and we share what we've learned. So you don't have to be a grandmother and picking up your grandkids from school every day. You can be doing what we're doing without kids,
Love it. Love that so much. So a lot of women hand over their power through people pleasing, through hand it over to partners, to just any shit that comes to them, to their kids, anything. When did you realize in your life that maybe you've been outsourcing your power, and how did you bring it back? Because I meet so many women at this time who do that, not in control of anything. It's like, you are. How do you, I know how stepped into it. How have you brought that kind of thing back? Or maybe you're the miracle girl who didn't hand over anything in the past.
No, I hand it over all the time.
Yeah.
In every area. Lived in fear. You wouldn't have known it probably, but just lived in true fear about my finances, about getting fired, about who I was dating or in a relationship with, that it was going to end. And I would say it was that moment in the kitchen where no one was coming. And then many, many periods of growth and falling down, and growth and falling down. And I feel like you have to kind of have some kind of reckoning. And then I've slowly, in conversations with my friends, I see them realizing it too. I have a really good friend who, I remember she said to me that her husband does everything for her, but she said, he doesn't help me with my anxiety. And I said, it's your anxiety. And if he wasn't doing all the other things he was doing, trust me, you would have more anxiety, and then I've seen her slowly. I've seen friends, complaining a lot about their relationships. It's a big thing, right? Like when you're in a relationship, I've done it too. Complaining about, or really being codependent about your partner. And like, if you would just fix him or her, then, dealing with that. I'm seeing everyone do it on sort of micro and macro levels. But, I think if you can just start looking, where have I given my power away? Like dating. Oh my God, that took many years to unravel. I used to just tell everyone. I had a large circle. It's gotten a lot smaller. And I would talk to them about the person I was dating and literally wait and see what they said, and feel sort of a bit ill if they didn't seem like they thought that the person I was dating was good, or it seemed like I lived like that. And I didn't even know it. That's the thing, is I didn't even realize how many areas of my life that was happening in. And, I did it with my father, like trying to always get his approval. And then when I lost my father, I realized how much I was over functioning for my brother. And then I stopped doing that, and it was painful, but our relationship is so much better. But that's even outsourcing your power, because it's like, if I over function for this person, then they're going to keep loving me, right? Like, it's like I have to do all this stuff. It's like, no, I can just be myself. And it's so much better when you stop doing that. But you can't do it all at once.
No, you can't. And it's like, I think the first thing to do is to notice you're doing it, and then take a breath and go, don't give yourself a hard time. Don't go, oh, fuck, I've done it again, people pleasing or whatever. Just go, yeah, cool. I'm just going to leave them do their journey for a bit and look after me in this moment and stuff.
And even when you have, like, being an entrepreneur is such a interesting, helpful evolution in this, because first of all, I wouldn't even say I was an entrepreneur, and I was like, I'm not a business person. Like, I'm just basically a journalist doing that. It was ridiculous. But I have to remind myself, like, I hired that person. They work for me. Like, I'm not, like, even something like that. Like, I keep doing it. I keep going, okay, why am I treating this person who works for me like I work for them? Like, I think it's important that I keep pleasing them. So it's a big unraveling. It really is. But I think just asking yourself, where am I doing it? And then, it's just like cleaning up your house. I see perimenopause as like the beach, when the tide comes in and it brings garbage. Sadly, in our world, there can be garbage on the beach, and you just, whatever your garbage is, right? Whatever it is, you got to spend some time cleaning it up. You got to spend some time noticing it and cleaning it up. And the get back to where you were mentality of perimenopause is very unhelpful, right? But we all want it. It's some mythical day, maybe when you were 37, when everything was perfect and you looked amazing. But it's forward. It's a forward momentum. We're onwards is where we're going.
Yeah. Anne-Marie, if you could get on your soapbox and share something right now that we have not talked about, what's calling you to be shared? What do you need to speak into?
If we're talking about perimenopause,
Whatever
sometimes
Yep.
sometimes you can feel so awful in perimenopause, as I did, that you're just grabbing everything. You're grabbing, you hear this is good for you, you hear this is good for you, and you're putting so many inputs that you can't really tell how any of them work. So, I made things worse for myself and have realized as I've gotten older that, people have genetic variations. I do. Some supplements do not work for me. So when I was loading myself up with turmeric, I'm making myself sick. When I was taking maca, I was making myself sick. I can't process those things like other people, but I just thought it was perimenopause. So when we do this, right? We do this. We're like, I'll get this. I was eating a lot of healthy foods, like processed healthy foods. Those aren't good. So I just like really back to basics. And if you add something, just track it, like just track yourself and get in the habit of tracking how you feel, however that works for you. But like at night and in the morning, I feel good. Yesterday I did this. And that's how you start listening to your body, which is the most important thing. I was in a state of overriding my body in a lot of perimenopause in my life, actually, like most of my life. So the goal is to start listening to your body. And yeah, soul work is important, but your soul speaks to you. Your inner child speaks to you. Your body talks to you. And that's a very important thing to learn how to do, is listen and adjust, I think.
I love that. So if you could go back to your 18-year-old self with the wisdom that you've got today, Anne-Marie, what would you whisper in her ear?
Oh my gosh. Well, it would be about my first boyfriend who, it would be about, this is not how love is. Like the withdrawing, he loves you and then he withdraws it. He loves you and he withdraws it. This is not what love is. Just stop it now. There's something better for you. And I say that as someone who hasn't really found that better thing. I mean, I've had relationships, but, that set me up for sort of an unhealthy dynamic. And what made me think that was, what made me think that was okay? That was like inside me. So I'm so happy my niece doesn't have this. She's just like, she has a boyfriend and he's lovely. And I just feel so excited that has healed that generation, right? Like that she felt so loved and safe. And so she's able to be, and she had a few little, and that's what I would say to myself. It could have been different, but it also is exactly what it was meant to be for me to be here,
Yeah. Well, I love that you are here and that the journey you've had has put you in a place to be of such important service to women. You created something amazing with what you're doing, and it's really important. So thank you for your courage, because I know when we go out onto the world stage, we're open to all the haters and shit nowadays. And thank you for your courage for, helping women think, not just to blindly accept that a doctor or someone maybe tells them. So you offer an incredibly important service. So I want to thank you for that.
Well, and thank you, because you're one of the people that I found that I draw a lot of strength from, in how centered you are in your, in what you do. That's like, I really, you're one of the very important people who's older than me, who I thought, like, this person is helping me, because it is hard. It is jarring when you're, some of that social media stuff is tough. And I don't get very much, but I find it difficult, I find it a bit disconcerting. So thank you.
Well, thank you for keep showing up. This has been awesome. Thank you. No matter where you are, you can follow Anne-Marie. What's the best place? Tell everyone where's the best place for them to be able to find you, although I will put the links below.
You can get everything on my website, hotflashinc.com. I'm at Hotflash Inc. and TikTok and Instagram. Substack is where I share newsletters, best lists, essays, deep dives. And then I have a podcast, which you can get at Substack, you can get on YouTube, and you can get wherever you get your podcasts. And I'm going to be switching my podcast too, I feel like, to something a little bit more helpful. I'm going to still do interviews, but I'm going to focus on solo episodes where I bring together everything I've learned in the last 6 years on a specific topic. And that will be mind, body, and soul. So I feel that will bring together the research I've done and like right now be a little bit more helpful.
I think that's a great plan. That's what I'm doing with my present day wise woman. So about every five or so, either 5 or 10 episodes of interviews, still share my bits and pieces. So go
Yeah,
girl.
bits
I
and
look forward
pieces.
to that. I love it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.